Our mission is champion care to children and families for happy, healthy lives. Literally everyone in this community has been a part of this endeavor. It began with Mr. Bob Shaw. He approached our executive leadership team and spoke with them about the fact that he wanted to make a donation to assist with the operations of a building of this type to take care of children with differing abilities. In my background, I have worked with a young lady named Rosie, True Love, and I was actually fortunate to be there the night that she was born. She was a preemie baby, and I was working in the NICU at Hamilton. Rosie's mother is a friend of mine and has become a dear friend over the years. We didn't know each other before Rosie was born.
Rosalie was born 12 weeks early, and we had been seeing We had been seeing doctors and therapists since she was 6 months old. Her main diagnosis is cerebral palsy, which affects her ability to walk. And so she has been receiving physical therapy and occupational therapy since she was a little bitty baby. Terri formed a board, a parent advisory council full of parents, teachers, educators, and therapists, and we kind of helped design this center based on what we had experienced in other clinical settings. Just input on what we felt was needed to help serve the children in our community better.
One of the things that we wanted to be sure we did was took care of children and families, because you can't take care of the child and separate them out from the family. It's important that you take care of everyone in the family.
Sometimes we do a different mirror every day. I do the light gate.
What does the light gate help you do?
It helps me walk.
When you walk in, you are greeted immediately. You can tell that the therapist and the physicians here truly care about their patients and their families. It's not just a, let's bring your child and treat them and send them on their way. It's a, come back, let us work with your child, let us work with you, and let us tell you some things that we can work through throughout the week.
So one of the things that makes our facility a bit unique is that we focus on family-centered care. Our primary concern is to not only be able to build competent and happy, healthy children, but also to be able to support families so that they know how to facilitate these things in their own lives.
We spend a lot of time coming up with hopefully easy to understand recommendations for the families to try to go ahead and offer things that they could be doing at home, because that is important. The 30 minutes here once a week is nothing compared to the hours and hours they spend at home.
I'm a single mother, so I also have to work. Most other therapy centers are 8 to 5, and that's what I work, 8 to 5.
Sometimes parents have to travel from one facility to another. They may have their speech and therapy in one location, and they may have PT and OT in another location. They may go to a different physician's office to have their medical appointments, and then they may have to go to yet another place to have their psychological testing completed or to see a counselor. The beauty of the Anna Shaw Children's Institute is that everything is right here under one roof.
The facility here is very accommodating to what schedule I need to have. And I feel like it's great because I can come in at 5:30, 6, and then I don't have to miss work, and I can still be a part of East West Therapy.
The big thing is it's only a 10-minute drive versus a 30-minute to a 2.5-hour drive. Previously, we were driving 2 hours and 30 minutes one way for Rosalie to receive services. And then when you actually get here and you see the inside of the facility, it's breathtaking.
We want them to have that experience where they feel like this is their place, this is their treehouse. We've had children come into our center and say, I'm coming in to play with the treehouse doctor. And that's exactly what we wanted.
I believe Issa's not nervous here. She just feels like she's at her second house.
So most places that do what we do are very much attached to a hospital. Kids are afraid of hospitals. A lot of these children who have complex illnesses, they have been in and out of the hospital so many times. Those poor little NICU babies, congenital heart babies. I mean, they're afraid. They've been poked and prodded, so they're afraid to go to the doctors. The fact that they don't know that there's a doctor here is really, it's very helpful. We don't wear white coats. We have toys that are spread out, and we're spending a lot of time talking, interacting, assessing their development. So at the end, we bring out the stethoscope and the ear scope, and we're doing it back and forth and letting the child help us. By that time, they're calm. So we get a much better view, I think, than a pediatrician or any other people, because we don't have them in that state of fear.
When I first found out she had Down syndrome, I didn't know what it was going to be like. So there was a lot of fear. I just want her to be happy and be a functioning member of society, which I know she can be.
We make a bunch of crafts here. Me and Miss Nancy do. I'm an artist. I think that's what I'm gonna be when I grow up, Mama.
All right, that sounds great.
I'll make a bunch of pretty pictures for you, Sissy and Daddy.
When we had our open house, over 800 people were here from the community, because this is something to be proud of.
We have lots of hopes and dreams for this place. The biggest one is that we just want to continue to help children and families realize that, life is a journey, and we can help them on that journey.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Avi Rajagopal, Editor-in-Chief of Metropolis, and I'm so thrilled today to take you behind the scenes on the video you just saw about the Anna Shaw Children's Institute. With me today is Michael Smith, Chief Creative Officer at DesignBox, and of course, our very special guest, who you know from the video, Terri Woodruff, Executive Director of the Anna Shaw Children's Institute. Michael and Terri, thank you so much for joining me today. Michael, tell us a little bit about the Imagine a Place series and why you produced this video about the Institute. Why was it important to have the Anna Shaw Institute be part of the series?
Well, when we first heard about this beautiful institute, it was, of course, a nice architectural representation of, a new space, a nice effort, a very user-centered designed space. But the interesting part was really the people that made this happen. So not only Terri pulling an amazing staff around her, but how she integrated the community. So for us, all of the Imagine a Place stories are really about place and the importance of place, but it really comes down to the people that are involved in these places, and whether it's in the design and development or those that are actually using the space. So this story was really exciting for us.
Yeah, it's just such a beautiful kind of message about the power of place and the real difference that place can make, in people's lives. It's just so moving. Terri, it's been a couple of years since that video was made. How is Rosie doing today?
Rosie is doing incredibly well. Thank you for asking about her. She was only 5 when we did the original video, and now she's 7. She has experienced a couple of surgeries to help her stand and walk. She's just an incredible young lady, and she is such a champion. She just never gives up, and she's always so excited and always so happy and so enthusiastic. She actually is able to transfer herself from her wheelchair to her bed or from her wheelchair to the shower. So she's just made incredible progress.
Oh, that's so fantastic. And of course, I'm sure the Institute played a big role in that progress. How has the Institute been doing over the past couple of years, especially over this last year? I'm sure it's been quite challenging.
It has been challenging, but what we have seen is, as Michael talked about, just incredible support from our community. We did offer telehealth to some of our patients that preferred that methodology of the delivery for their care. And then one of the things that we saw was we really needed to keep the patients coming in to the Anna Shaw Children's Institute. It was so important to prevent them from having any regression of the skills that they had learned. We've been amazed to have, we've had over, I think over 15,000 appointments, and we've seen over 800 individual patients since we opened 2 years ago when that video was first completed. So it's just been incredible to see the growth, to see the support from our community. I can't say enough how grateful I am to have been a part of this. When you talk about the concept of imagining a place where children can come and not be frightened, where they can be excited about coming, to see their doctor or their psychologist or their therapist, and receiving the services that they receive here. And then also our staff is so excited about being able to provide these services to children and to watch their progress, like we've watched with Rosie and hundreds of other patients. We've been able to see the progress that they've made. And it's all part of just the incorporating the design and what children want and how we can keep them happy and motivated in their therapy services. They see that they're coming to play at the treehouse. They don't see that, oh, I'm going to therapy. What they see is, oh, yay, I get to go to the treehouse and play. And that's what we wanted to be, a center like that.
And that just shines through in the video, right, Michael? Michael, how was it for you when you produced this video, when you shot this video, encountering the Institute? Take us back a little bit. Tell us about your impressions of what you saw then.
Well, I spent, so our team, when we first went out, we spent a little bit of time just outside. I think we actually shot the drone footage first. And so we were on the outside, we were looking at this beautiful building, and we got a really good sense of how it was situated on the side of this little hill, this little embankment, beautiful surroundings, everything was gorgeous. But it wasn't until we met Terri and we got to go inside and she gave us a tour that we really understood the power. So you can look at architecture all day long and say, wow, what a beautiful structure. But as soon as we heard Terri start talking about the vision of what was going on, it specifically moved me, having a 28-year-old son with special needs and knowing how important those early years are for development and what kind of effort it takes from the entire family to help those little ones kind of develop and grow up. It was so inspiring for me. I thought the vision was amazing. And so you never know when you get into these stories, you don't know what you're going to get. And that's kind of the excitement of it. And you meet all these amazing people. And then you hear a story like this and you get to meet the families and you hear what they have to say about how the Institute is changing their lives, basically, just because they're investing in their children so much. It was phenomenal. It was a great experience for our team.
It is a very emotional experience for all of us that were involved in this. We started with families. We had a parent advisory council in the very beginning before we ever broke ground that we pulled together. We had about 20 parents and local educators and school psychologists that we pulled into to meet together monthly so that we could talk about what do you need from our center and what types of services do you need, what types of associates and staff do you need, so that we can meet the needs of the family and the child. It's all about family-centered care. You can't take care of a child without taking care of the family. And so they gave us such great insights. We had 3 incredible ideas come from them. One was a conference rooms that were available to the families even after hours or on Saturdays. So we set things up so that they could enter the building and we could have the main part of the building locked off, but they could still enter the conference rooms, and they have a kitchen and they have, access to restrooms. So anytime they wanted to meet here for support groups or to just plan an outing, they could do that. The second idea that came from our family advisory council was hydraulic changing stations for children that were in diapers that were older than your typical 2 or 3-year-old. It's so easy. You have a button you push and it lowers almost to the floor, and you transfer the child from the wheelchair onto the changing station, and then you raise the changing station up so that protects the child's dignity and the parents' backs. And then the third idea was to have a pool. A hydraulic pool, so that the children could have swim therapy and have aquatic therapy, and they can receive physical therapy, speech therapy, or occupational therapy in that pool. So those 3 ideas, in addition to some other elements of design, came from our Parent Advisory Council. So it does start with the families and asking them what they need and what's been successful, other places that they visited, and what hasn't been available that they needed us to provide here in our community.
Michael, you were going to say something.
Oh, I was just, Jessica, Rosie's mom, was a part of that council, wasn't she, Terry? And so
Yes,
I thought that was really, she talked about how important it was that their voices were heard and included in that design process. And to us, that was a really key part of the story, to hear those moms saying, you know, how important this was, that they had been heard, that they were listened to, that they've been able to contribute.
Yes.
You know, the other thing that struck me is just how much care there was to, you know, sort of allay the anxieties of these parents, but also to make their day-to-day lives, you know, easier. I mean, they deal with enough, right? And they're looking at such a challenging life. And you know, so when the parents in the video were talking about, you know, just coming in and not having that, you know, that fear, but also having a place that calms them down, and then having a place that combines many different forms of therapy, not having to drive from one center to another or one facility to another. I mean, it just seems like, of course, the space is designed around children, but as you say, I think it's really been designed around the parents and the parents' lives outside the center, which I think is just is so fantastic. You know, and of course, that's great. I just wanted to hear about something that we don't hear that much about in the video, Terri and Michael, which is about your staff, Terri. You know, how does the space support them? You know, obviously, we meet your wonderful staff, and they seem they're just phenomenal. You know, so how does the space support them?
I couldn't agree more with you that they're phenomenal. It's been wonderful that we've been able to pull together the team that we have from all over the United States. We've had people that have moved to this area from level 4 children's facilities, so it's been marvelous. One of the things that we did incorporate into the design of the building were team rooms, and the team rooms are located in the middle of the examination or treatment rooms. So on both floors, you have a door coming from both the north side and the south side of the building that go into these team rooms. So these team rooms are the space where the staff will come back to do their documentation, but it's also a wonderful way that they can just kind of have ad hoc team meetings to talk about, you know, well, this is what I'm doing with this child and it's working really well. And then another provider that maybe like PT might be talking to OT, and they can say, well, oh, I didn't think about trying to motivate them in that way. Or they can share, we have swing attachments in all of our rooms for the children, and they could share, you know, this child really responds well, the swinging motivates them. So then they can pass that on to the other therapies. It's been wonderful to have everyone under one roof. That's one of the things that the providers, the physicians and the psychologists and the therapists, they've all talked about. It's great that you can just run upstairs and get a physical therapy consult. You know, I've seen this child and I'm not sure what's going on, but this is what we're seeing in the way that they walk. Same thing, the physical therapist can run downstairs and talk to the doctor and say, this is what I'm seeing. I think this child needs to come and see you, so they can have a full developmental workup. And so all of those things are working in tandem so that we can provide the very best care, again, for these children and families. And then the families, you know, have everyone here under one roof too. So once the children are comfortable with the environment and comfortable with the building, they're happy to come into their appointments. Our architect did a brilliant thing. He rotated the building about 15 degrees so that we could have an entrance downstairs and upstairs from the parking lots. And that's especially important for children that are frightened of elevators. So by making that small adaptation, you know, if they can drive downstairs and park right outside of the building and come in to see the doctor or the psychologist. If the child then later has a therapy appointment, they can drive around upstairs and just walk right into the building on the second floor. So that child doesn't have to experience that frightening event of being on an elevator, which could ruin an appointment for a child and a family. I mean, then the parent has a child who's upset and they can't participate in their appointment, and the family's having a rough day because their child is having a rough day. So it's just all about, trying to make the families and the children as comfortable as they can be so they can get that optimal participation in therapy and the optimal outcomes that they need.
I was so impressed with the efficiency, Terri, that you just talked about when we saw your staff really integrating and the ability to reach those kids and be influencing their development so regular on such a regular schedule that the efficiency of everyone in that building allows that to be just multiplied. In other words, you don't lose time with checking in or making a recommendation. Like, everyone is there, and that was really impressive. Your staff was amazing.
Well, thank you. I feel very blessed and fortunate that I get to work with such a great group, and they do all take it very seriously, and they try to do exactly what you said, make it as efficient as we can for the families, because parents have to take off from work to bring their children, for an appointment. And that's one of the reasons. I think it was, I think one of the moms in our story mentioned in the video that you just saw, they talked about, it was so nice that we had late afternoon appointments, like 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30, so that she could come after work and she didn't have to miss work. And, those appointments are valuable to parents and to children. It's hard for children to miss school. So, we try to have appointments after 3 o'clock, several, so that we can accommodate family schedules, and they don't have to, be disciplined for missing work, or the child doesn't have to be in trouble for, missing school. We try to make it as accommodating as we possibly can. Our ultimate goal is success for the children and the families. So we, want to help them be successful in all areas of their lives.
Right. Terri, just a last question for you. There's a lot of interest right now among architects and interior designers and, all the people who shape the way our spaces look and work and feel, in being more inclusive, right? To make sure that spaces work for people of all abilities, all ages, for neurodiverse people, for people from different backgrounds. And I think, that's something that you've really pulled off in being able to address the needs of parents, of children, of staff, all of whom are in, we have to admit, very challenging situations. So, do you have any advice for our readers, for our viewers, on, how we can, bring some of that spirit into our design projects? How do we stay open and inclusive? How do we listen and learn?
Well, I think the most important thing that we did was we reached out to families and parents and people in our school system so they could help us learn the lessons that they had experienced, both good and bad. What worked well, what didn't work well, what was your child frightened of? One of the things that we did, because we do have a lot of patients that have autism, we knew that was going to be our most particular design group that we needed to focus on, or that we needed to try to be sure we included. And so we don't have a lot of bright colors. But we do have color. It's just muted colors. We have the whole spectrum of colors. We just don't have, bright red and bright orange. And even to the point of some of the decor that has white on it or white trim, it's not really white. It's really a dove gray, so that it's not so bright and so powerful. And all of that information came from our parent support group. Some of that I knew because I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner and have worked with children with autism and with other developmental disabilities. But it was also information that came exclusively from our parents that helped us to be sure that we had the absolute best design. And you mentioned diversity. You also want to be sure that you're including people who are represented in your community. We have a large Hispanic community. So we made sure that we included some folks that had that ethnic background when we designed our center, and we wanted them to be included in our parent advisory council because that's who we're going to be serving. So it was so important to get those frontline people that are going to be using our center and be sure that we ask them, what can we do? How can we make this better for you as a family? And how can we in turn make it better for your child? That would be the first advice that I would give, and then the second would be to consider the types of patients that are going to be in your facility and be sure that your design, you can have a gorgeous design, but again, in my opinion, if you use bright colors, people tend to think about pediatrics as being the bright primary colors, and those are gorgeous. And some children with autism like those colors, but there's a larger population of children with autism that are not able to enjoy those colors and in fact find them frightening. And again, we didn't want to, initiate a meltdown or any problems from that. So we just took all of that information and incorporated it into the design.
You know, hearing you talk about color and what a difference, you know, some basic design elements like that in the ways that people experience space. And, you know, I was curious about lighting levels as well. Of course, you know, as we look at the needs of, you know, neurodiverse populations and other people with sensitivities, we understand that lighting can play a huge role too. Terri, was that a factor at all in the design of the Institute?
Absolutely, it was. And thank you for bringing that up. We have a certain population of children that the children that have autism, they do have specific sensitivities. And what happens is their senses are so astute. They hear every little thing. They hear when the air conditioning system might come on. In the school systems where they have the fluorescent lights, sometimes they're bothered by that hum or buzz from a fluorescent light. So throughout our center, we have LED light design, and that's better because it's a better light. So for our providers, they get a better focus of the children's color and some other physical elements they may need to be assessing on the child, but also the child is less disturbed by the fluorescent lighting. It's that LED light, so it's a soft, warm light instead of that artificial blue white light. It's also better for children that have ADHD. It doesn't promote their, you know, them having the activity and the prolonged awakening and difficulty going to sleep. And then we went a little bit further with that in our lighting. All of our lighting is in shapes. So again, we're working with experiential learning with the children and the family. So outside of our elevator banks, we have circles of lights, and the parents can have the child who normally wants to look down at the floor, maybe a child that has autism and they don't look up to make eye contact. They can promote the child looking up to the ceiling and say, look at these circles. Which one is larger? Which one is smaller? How many circles do you see? And then in our meeting rooms, we have lights that are shaped like rectangles. So again, it's just all about, you know, trying to incorporate some learning as well as some fun as the children go through our center while we're accommodating their special needs that they may have in regards to sensory issues.
I think inherent in what you're saying is you have to follow those cues for the folks who are the most vulnerable, you know, in the population. And so, yes, while there may be children who enjoy bright colors, why not mute the colors down a little, you know, for the sake of those who can't? And, you know, I think really, you know, many times that's kind of a, you know, hard choice that designers have to make in designing spaces is, you know, well, it affects this group, but not that group. And I think, you know, that's also something one can learn from the community is, you know, who do they value and sort of what, who are you trying to serve and to really uplift and nurture with the space, and that's just key. That's just so vital, and it's really suffused through the video we just saw a few minutes ago about the Anna Shaw Institute. So any last comments, Michael and Terri, on the experience of creating the video, on life since that video, and what you're looking forward to?
I can just speak for our team. It was a pleasure to meet Terri, meet the families, and meet her staff. But it was also one of those moments where we set the bar so high. That story was so rich and so fun to do, and felt like, wow, we're doing something that's important. People need to hear this. This is a great model of really sensitive, user-centered design. Everybody needs to know about this. But then you go to other stories and they're beautiful and they're fun, but you keep going back to what a rich story this was. So it's really helped us focus how we dig a little bit deeper to find out what's going on in the stories we tell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was just so exciting to be a part of, you know, putting this together and have everyone's input to help it be the very best possible place it could be for children. This is a once in a lifetime, you know, chance to be able to do something like that. And what an opportunity. It's been great since we opened. We've continued to have success stories, and that's what thrills my heart is, you know, the success stories, and to be able to meet the group that works with Imagine a Place and to find out about all the places that they featured. And we were honored to be featured as one of the places in Imagine a Place. And it's been a wonderful experience again to be part of the families and the children's lives.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Terri. And thank you, Michael, for joining me today. It's been such a privilege to be able to explore this with you and to kind of, you know, talk about the life after that beautiful video we saw and to understand a little bit more about the Anna Shaw Children's Institute. I really appreciate the opportunity. For everyone who's watching, please go ahead, follow the Imagine a Place series. There's an Imagine a Place podcast that you can keep up to date with as well. A wide range of case studies and conversations with some amazing creative people are available on carolina.ofs.com, and also will be airing on DesignTV by SANDOW this year. And we're really, really so proud to bring these stories to you. Again, thank you so much, Michael. Thank you, Terry, and everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Avi.